Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics podcast / video / special episode that we are doing, and the Amy Community Series. We are recording on Tuesday night, so the first game has been done and dusted. It was good to see some scores ticking over, and we're really getting to the nitty-gritty of the preseason. Not long to go until the season starts. I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And I'm joined, as always, by my co-host and fellow AFL Fantasy Fanatic, Tim Guest. Guesty, mate, how are you?
Good, mate. Good. It's good to watch some real footy with some real stats and just see how things are getting shaken up already. It's been a big couple of days.
Exactly. A few big injury news as well today, which I'm sure we will touch on. But we do have a very, very special guest, and you'll know him as back-to-back AFL Fantasy Champion from 2017 and 2018, and coach of Moreira's Magic. Selby, mate, how are you?
Good, Bales. Good to be on, mate. Always good chatting to you two guys. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, beautiful. Mate, it's great to have you on, and it's always a pleasure for you to jump on with us. But I thought before we started talking about nitty-gritty, I'm really excited by Slider and the Survivor comp. So I just want to give the listeners a rundown of what's happening with the competition and how people can get involved. Because I believe there's only a couple of days left to register before we start getting started with it all.
Yeah. So, under slider.team is the domain, or there's an iPhone app, Slider Fantasy. You'll be able to download it. We're running a single entry draft comp. So it's a bit like Classic, where you're entering as a solo against the rest of the world, we call it, but it's done via a draft format. So you just got to register a time next week, which suits you to do your draft. You'll be thrown in a group of 11 other randoms. There'll be leagues of 12, and the way it will work will be head-to-head matchups for the first 11 weeks. So you'll play everyone once. After 11 weeks, the top 6 of each league progress to the survivor of the fittest, and it goes back to an overall rank from there. And just on top of that too, we've done it under a best ball format, because obviously we know everyone's juggling, whether it's fantasy or Supercoach or their home leagues, their draft leagues. So once you've done the draft, your team will take care of itself. It's optimal scoring based off the allocated position. So you won't have to touch your team for the rest of the year if you don't want to. And you'll be given your top 3 defenders each week from your drafted squad and your top 3 forwards from your drafted squad. So the hope is just to shake things up. Obviously, the team's going to be super unique. You've drafted this team. So unlike Classic, where a lot of the top teams have very similar teams, you'll have your unique draft team, and you'll take it on against the rest of Australia to hopefully find the number one drafter in Australia via this Slider Survivor. So, a couple more days left to lock in your team, and we'll allocate the leagues over the weekend, and they kick off this coming Monday.
Yeah,
So,
mate.
On that, Selbs, so I was just sort of saying about how I'm a bit busy and, worried about what I can take on this year. So that was one of the things about the draft. So you kind of pre-nominate a time that you're available. Is that
so there's 3 days, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday next week, where you can either do it day, evening, or night. You nominate your preferred time slot so it suits. Obviously, if you can't make any of those, you can still partake under an auto draft structure. So if you preset your queue, you'll be given a team with the correct formation based on your pre-selected queue. And so it doesn't annoy everyone else in your league taking a minute per pick. If you time out after 2 picks, you'll automatically be put onto auto drafts. It just takes 5 seconds each pick, so it speeds up the draft for you as well. So I get the hardest working man in fantasy footy's Guesty. Bales Guesty. So, but you're probably the hardest working man, full stop, with what you do at Infinite Wealth plus this stuff. So I did hear you pre-show saying that you're just focusing on Classic this year because you have got your hands full. But if there were to be a different format to play, this is the one where you can just put in your team and then put your feet up the rest of the year and still have a bit of an interest and following for the rest of the way. And then obviously if you pass through the league stage after round 12, there's obviously equal chance of you winning because the overall rank starts from round 12. So hopefully keep people engaged. And as I said, a different way to play fantasy this year alongside all the other great comps.
You get to do the draft, and then, if your team's shit, you don't have to worry about it. But
absolutely, that's the hope.
Get to move on. So, I think I will give it a shot, mate.
Oh, got him.
Just another thing to add to the list.
Anyway, let's get into the chat, Bales. Enough of the Slider.
Yeah, beautiful. So this is, as I said, this is the fun time of the preseason where we're watching all these games, all the AAMI Community Series games. We see the scores ticking over. We see the roles, because this is a lot of teams' dress rehearsals. So I think what I did is that there's a question, I guess, for each position that I wanted to go over. And then we've got some other listener questions. So thanks, people, for sending those in. So I want to start off with defenders and opening round. And this was a caveat that I put these notes in this morning. And then we get the news today that Callum Mills has been ruled out until post his round 3 early bye because he's had a tear in his plantar fascia. So he won't be playing. We're not picking him. That's one less round 3 bye defender to worry about. But Selby, what's the best approach in terms of these defenders? Can you start all of net? Obviously, Mills is gone, but you've still got Perryman. You've still got Zaves boy, Lawson Humphreys. You've still got Max Holmes as well. Matt Roberts says that there's a few of these round 3 bye defenders. How many do you reckon is too many to be starting with?
It's interesting. Like, you asked me this time last year, and I said none, because why would you start with someone who's playing less games than the rest of them? And then we went out and saw a Matt Roberts go pop and even a Whitfield go pop. And while, yes, you might be short on that round 3, knowing that there's different to this time last year, there's extra teams on that bye, but you're going to want those players if they're going to go up in cash. And you just got to listen to the way DT Lemon plays this game, and he prioritises cash gen more than points on field for those first phase of that season. So you say how many, so even, I don't want to talk about Zay's boy, because what did he score tonight? 35, did he? Lawson Humphreys. But say if he does get a 120, it's like, well, that's a free ticket to cash gen. You might cop that hit in his buy, but you probably do start as many as you can if they pop. So like a Perryman, if he goes 110 plus, he's in. If a Sam de Koning goes probably 85 plus, he's in. I think you said I was avoiding them this time last year until we then saw how round 0 played out. And with all these number of trades you do have, you can actually duck and weave, and people were getting in Tom Green last year and trading him out of his buy. So I don't think there is too many, as long as you can field 18, obviously. But with the squad of 30 in that early in the season with not many red dots, I'm not scared from those early buys.
Yeah, well, Tim, I know when we've spoken about defence specifically, and you've said that you'd be happy to even start no rookies on field. You'd be happy to put a de Koning at D6 and fill out the likes of Perryman and Roberts and a few others. Is that sort of where you're leaning with, and having a few of these round 3 bye defenders in your defence?
Yeah, just kind of going back and looking at my notes and thinking about last year. I mean, I don't know whether it was, we hadn't seen those early buys before, and we were a bit uncertain how they were going to play out, whether there was a bit of groupthink going on, or, whether there's that just continued evolution of the game. And, many of us have kind of come from that, 30 green dots, have as many green dots as you possibly can. But, the game has changed a little bit, man. And, obviously it's gotten a lot more competitive as well. And I think to get up there, you've kind of got to be that little bit more aggressive. And I'm not sure if it was Chris or Tom, but who was it that we saw trading out Tom Green? I think you mentioned that before, Selbs. So yeah, I'm just trying to take a little bit more away from that, and rather than being conservative and going for 22 players on field during those early buys, I'm looking at, okay, who are the best? I'm kind of just, who are the best players to pick? Not so worrying about the buys, making sure I've got coverage, and then if they've got enough value in them, then hoping it kind of works out towards the end, like the DT Lemon kind of strategy, and I guess that defensive line as well. We've got. We're on the Hat Chat podcast before. You, Bales, were talking about how a lot of these defenders are either fully priced or maybe even priced above what we think they're going to go. And there is some value options in there, but of course, many of them are on that round 3 buy. But I don't really see too many other options to pick. So yeah, at the moment, I've got 4 in my side at the moment. I've got Jaiden Short, Matt Roberts, Harry Perryman, Sam de Koning, and then of course we've got Bailey Smith in there as well. So I don't know if that's how hard I'm going to go, but I'm certainly leaning that way, and I'll just try and either trade or make sure that I've got a really heavy playing bench.
Yeah, exactly. So if you had to pick one of those guys priced, let's say, over 900K out of those defenders. So obviously we've got from the top, you got a Harry Shees, when you're going all the way down, I guess, to like a Liam Duggan at the just over 900. Is there a guy that stands out to you that maybe he's got that, if it's 5 points upside, that can be good enough to be maybe someone's D1? Or alternatively, would you rather start a Trent Rivers, who looked pretty good at D1?
He looked very good, didn't he? Old Trent Rivers. It's easy to say because he's the hype one, but it's probably the Sheasel move. And I keep going back to my super coach. He's been in my team up until, I think, DeConing or Pitney getting out, and I had to find the cash somewhere. I started going a rookie in my R2 and had to get back up to DeConing. But Sheasel's the one who we've seen his numbers if he has full-time mid. Obviously, his scores were down after he moved from the half-back role, but it spent a lot of the time playing that sort of half-forward split, which I think it's going to be more full-time mid. We say that, though, and last year, out of all the full-time mids, the highest scorer was a Treloar with a 110. So for Sheasel to go 110 plus, he's almost going to have to be the best performing fantasy midfielder in the comp, and he's in his third or fourth year. So I'm not super confident in that, but gee, he can play. So yeah, he's the one I earmark because he ticks at least two boxes compared to the rest of them, where he doesn't have that early buy like a Flanders, a Martin, and a Zorko, and a Whitfield. And his scoring when he was more of a full-time mid was on par with what he's priced at. Whereas, yeah, the Martin and the Flanders, their scoring dipped a little bit from when they were half back to what the role I think they're going to play.
Yeah, exactly. Tim, do you have a favourite sort of expensive defender around there?
It's the Wang for me. I just can't. I mean, here I am going against the GOAT. Who the hell am I, right? But I just can't back in Harry Shees. Like I said, priced 112. The way the prices are, he's probably got to go at 115 just to maintain his price. And yeah, we didn't see the midfielders really go above 110 last year. So I really struggle there. I'm not even convinced with the Wang though, because it's we're often looking for these players where something's changed. And, I think with him, it's kind of the case of we're looking for a little bit of that natural progression, like him growing into his confidence and things like that, which I think can be a little bit of a concern. Obviously with, the doubts over Sinclair, it probably gives him a little bit of a bump. But yeah, I'm even kind of leaning towards that maybe there's not that really much value in him either. And maybe that's at the moment, D1 for me is Trent Rivers. So, in that 900 bracket, you also talked about there's a Max Holmes, but, I'm not sure that I like, Geelong and trusting Chris Scott. And then probably the other one that a lot of us were pretty hot on was a Bailey Dale going back a few weeks ago, but I think many of us have cooled on him. I guess Duggo might be an option as well, getting that more midfield time. But yeah, there's a lot of questions in those higher price defenders for me.
Yeah, I don't mind. That could be the strategy, Guesty, that Trent Rivers D1. You said you go against me. My super coach, I keep going back to that because that's the one I've got built, and my Bolter team. And at the moment, I've got the Wang in there and no Shees. So it's probably in line with what you were thinking. But yeah. It's been tricky line from the start, but it's funny, more and more names pop up, which then mean, okay, well, now we've got a few more options there. And even tonight with the rookies like Zach Reed, who we all thought might have just been a dead weight on the bench scoring 30s. What did he score? 75 or something with kick-ins. So the guy, prior opportunity, as Roy liked to call him, like he scored okay and looked good. So now we've all of a sudden got a few numbers there, because I was like Guesty as well, trying not to have a rookie in defence on field when we had the Mills option there. But now maybe we are replacing Mills with one of these rookies if they're coming in. But again, they've all got these early buys, these rookies. So it's good though. This debate's good. No one's got a set in stone back six, which is a good thing, I think, this close to the season start.
Yeah, definitely. It means a lot of people are going to have different defenders. And I'm just seeing here, Zach Reed had 3 kick-ins tonight, which was really good. So if that could continue, that would be very, very nice. Sort of to link the defenders in and moving to the midfield, I asked the boys on Hat Chat this, and I'm sure you guys will hit when you hear that pod, you'll hear our discussion. But with Callum Mills out, he was obviously a round 3 bye defender that we all had pretty much locked into our sides, barring any unforeseen circumstances. And unfortunately, those circumstances have reared their head and he's out. Does this open up the door, do you think, for, let's say, Will Ashcroft in the midfield? Because we had a round 3 defender. We weren't really looking at a guy like maybe an Ashcroft or maybe another round 3 buy player because of all these defenders. Because we're missing one, do you think that opens the door for another round 3 buy midfielder per se to maybe start with?
Yeah, I think we were saying with the best 18, it doesn't hurt you as much as we initially thought last year, but easy also to say now that it all just depends on what he scores. If he scores even 100 flat, you wouldn't do it. There's players out there who have the upside. But if he goes out and goes a 120, which we've seen when they're on top and he bobs up for his +6s, if he gets a big score built into that rolling average and his score hasn't moved, then you certainly can jump on knowing you're getting that cash gen and as you said, can wear one less early buy player knowing that Mills is out. The only thing is most people are replacing Mills with a Perryman, with maybe one of these rookies who came in from Essendon. Like, you're getting that buy player anyway in that regard.
Yeah, exactly. Tim, is Will Ashcroft someone that you've spoken that you said he was one of your players that you picked in your very first team. Is Mills out? Is that sort of meant that Ashcroft's a guy that is he still in your team, or is he someone you're really considering?
No, look, he's gone for me. I'd like I said, he was in my first team. I think he's got plenty of upside there. But I think what's developed through this preseason is that we've got so many of those kind of you might call them mid-priced midfield options that have got value in them. We've got probably the 2 most common ones with Peatling and Hollands. You've got a Clayton Oliver, you've got an Alan Chera. One person that I really want to get Selby's feedback on is Dylan Shield after the game tonight, where he kind of sees him sitting. But, there just seems to be so many value options in that midfield. It's how do you fit them all in? And I think with all that kind of competition, it probably pushes Ashcroft out, particularly with that round 3 buy.
So what's your thoughts on Dylan Shield?
Well, like this time last year, we were hunting for players to go back and take that role. So I think we had 3. Lots of teams started with 3, and that's not including a Matt Roberts in the midfield who eventually got defender status. I think it's Carl Amon, Nick Martin, Riley Bonner, and Matt Roberts. And the only one who was the other one, sorry?
Max Holmes. And
Max Holmes as well. And then obviously there was Zorko in the forward line who had that role. Like we were building our side on that. And it just shows that we give ourselves a bad rap at times making the mistakes, but it shows that we were onto something because the defenders are the ones who outscored the mid. So we were right in terms of earmarking midfielders who were going to play defence last year. The only one who didn't really pay off was an Amon, and he still averaged. What did he average last year? Still got 90, I think. He came in priced around that 90 mark. So if he has that role, like we've seen all teams in the comp have that one player in that role who go off, whether it's North Melbourne or we saw it last year with a Nick Martin at Essendon. It's just how confident are you that he's going to keep in that role? And because I've got a few running defenders, as we know, whether it's a Andy McGrath who scored well again tonight as well, a Redmond to come back into the sides, a Ridley who picks up +6s and takes kicks as well. So I don't think he took a kick in, Dylan Shield, did he?
He had one, but he didn't play on from it.
Yeah, so that's the old fantasy nut stat about a Whitfield last year. If he didn't take a kick in, he would have averaged, again, I need you to answer the question, but it was a 90-something, wasn't it? So, and Whitfield did what Whitfield did. So obviously we see this in the preseason, whether it was even a Jordan Clark a couple of years ago, these half-backers, half-forwards seem to overinflate their scores in these games because there is a little bit less pressure on there. So how are you going to rely on him getting, if Whitfield's getting 90 with no kick-ins, is Dylan Shield going to get 75 with no kick-ins? But yeah, what we saw today was pretty impressive. And if it means you can flick him into your back line and move one of your rookies off on the bench once we start getting back in the best 22 after round 6, then it probably is a play. I don't know. I get nervous on these players who are in or out, not job security. But yeah, I didn't watch all the game, but what I did watch, like he was in the screen every single time you watch. I think a few people called him the Kmart Zorko, and he actually did look a bit like that. And obviously foot skills weren't as good, but so long answer to your question, Guesty. Your answer's probably yes. You can have him in your team, but who are you booting out? Are you booting out one of these good rookies, or are you booting out one of these Peatling types? Don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Well, I mean, look, the number of rookies has probably dropped in the last week, but yeah, look, this is the thing to work out, right? Who going to pick?
Yeah, exactly. And I guess the good thing is we get to see Dylan Shield in opening round. So actually going for premiership points, and that opening score could definitely impact if we go there or not. So, and obviously, Tim, you mentioned that. So it's a good segue to go to those rookies. Obviously, the unfortunate news of Jagger Smith going down, which is obviously really unfortunate for him. Hopefully, he recovers well and's back next year. And Sam Lawler, touch and go. Even Josh Smiley, like a few of us were hoping he'd be playing tomorrow night or tonight when this, last night, because this is up on the Thursday. We were hoping Josh Smiley was going to play, but he didn't play. So what do you reckon, Sel, in terms of the number of rookies on field in the midfield? So a lot of people have had 3, some even had 4. I think 4 is out of the question now. Are you still sitting maybe 3, maybe even one of an O'Driscoll, obviously one of your Freo boys, or do you think 2 midfield rookies is where you'd be sitting?
I was always of the belief to go less in prior years and get those mid prices in, and the trade-off was maybe 1 less gun premium, 2 mid prices, and 1 less rookie, hoping that the rookie was going to score a 40 or 50. My mid price would go 75, 85. And that you'd make your points that way. I think the fact with this best 18 for 3 of the first 4, it made me think, let's get these gun rookies. We all heard how good these rookies are, this midfield crop. But as you said, Jagger gone. He was number 1 on the list. We haven't. I think it sounds like that Smiley's not even going to get a midfield gig initially for the Tigers. Draper looks like he can score, but how many midfielders are there for the Crows? So I'm back to now thinking it's 2 max rookies, particularly with these mid prices popping up. And I don't mind the O'Driscoll, but I think I'd rather the rookie than an O'Driscoll at the moment, and potentially trade into O'Driscoll once I see him show enough that he can avoid that vest.
Yeah. No, I've heard a few people say as well that first game is at GMHBA Stadium as well, so we know wingers don't necessarily score great there. So definitely one to be watching. Final question for the mids, and I guess it's someone like me at the moment. I'm currently structured up with 2 big midfielders, and obviously the news of Zach Butters is looking like he's very unlikely. I don't know if it's confirmed he's missing, but he's very unlikely to be playing in round 1. I think he's had knee arthroscopic surgery or something, a bit of a clean up there. And Rosie's the option. How many do you reckon you'd be happy to put as those expensive midfielders? Do you reckon with all the value, you'd only be having 1 or none? Do you reckon you can have a couple to be a little bit different? Would you be sitting with those big midfielders?
Yeah, or just quickly on O'Driscoll. So I've heard that too, this GMHBA tough for wings. And they're more the outside wing who just sit on the outside and hope it comes out to them. One thing about O'Driscoll, he can tackle. He's sort of a big-bodied and gets involved. So I think it will actually play in his favour that it's a skinny wing, so he's always involved in the game. So that's not scaring me as much. Of those mids, and that's why it's such a fascinating year, like you say, how many of these big guys can you go knowing that there's value behind? I've heard Vams rattle off those names at the top, and you could argue that they're all underpriced. Brayshaw, Dawson, Sarong, Rosie, I've missed a few, Taranto. So if you've got the cash and you can structure up, then I don't think there is a max on how many you can have if you think that they can all outperform what they've come in priced at. So there's so many different ways to play it. Where you could, I think there's less rookies available now, makes that a bit tricky. You might have to pay up for the Hollands types or the Dylan Shield or the Sardis. So you might not have that money to have those extra one of those. But yeah, I know Vams was talking about having even 5 of those big dogs, which I didn't mind that theory, to be honest with you, because I do like all those names. There's no one there except for maybe a Sarong. I get worried of that tag, but those top end guys all look good to me.
Yeah. Well, Tim, my thought. Tim, obviously I'm pretty keen on my boy Jordan Dawson. Hopefully he can have a big year and a Brayshaw. Have you got any of these guys, I guess, over that $1 million, like Jack Steele's another one, Bont maybe? Have you got any of these guys priced over $1 million?
Hey, me, mate? Was that directed to me?
Yeah.
Sorry, mate. I wasn't sure if you're asking Selbs. I've got one at the moment, Andrew Brayshaw. Look, I'm still worried about how they're going to use Dawson, and particularly with all those numbers in the midfield. I know there's less need for him up forward, but I'm not. yeah, I just feel like there's a little bit more risk with someone like him than maybe a Brayshaw, so I'm staying away from him. And then, of course, I can save a bit of money by going to a Connor Rosé. I was starting to call on him a bit, with the news about Zach Butters. I think that gives him a little bit of a bump. I am concerned about maybe some tag there, but once again, that might even go to Horn Francis rather than Rosé. Taranto, look, I have been hot on, but I'm just a bit worried about that run early on in the season. So yeah, for me, it's M1 is Andrew Brayshaw, but once again, I'm even thinking about maybe dropping him down to a Connor Rosé and trying to get a little bit more of these value options in the midfield. I am concerned about what we're going to see out of our rookies. And particularly we thought it was going to go this year, the sub rule, but yeah, a lot of the rookies that I'm looking at, I'm just a bit worried about, sub risks as well, which obviously just kills your cash gen. So I'm really trying to go for having a bench of players that are kind of best 22, and we don't have to worry about that sub, which is obviously going to be tough. But look, the other thing is that we're in the first of the preseason games, and look, we got opening round to go as well. So the reality is that we don't really know how the rookies are going to kind of shape up until we're done an opening round. And look, I know that I probably didn't handle opening round very well last year. I may have probably been a bit too reactionary. I know I'd made some big changes, which I probably obviously should have made, particularly with the result that I had last year. But maybe the plan is we got to wait for opening round to happen before you even really start filling your team. And, as we kind of say every year, you start filling it with the rookies first, and then, you kind of fill the rest from there. So, I think there's a lot to play out with rookies over the next week or so, or even, 3 weeks with opening round. And I don't know what's happening with Jepper, but I'm waiting for the Jeppers Juniors episode to come out with the Plus Six podcast. So keen to get Jepper's insight on how those rookies are shaping up. That's for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, we need the rookie info. So, Jepp, I'm sure you're on it. So, looking forward to that episode. Just to quickly circle back to Jordan Dawson's cell, because I heard Zave, and I know the thing that's great about listening to you and Zave is Zave brings a lot of the football and what they should bring in and what players should play in certain structures. And he was saying that like Dawson should be just the number one guy in there. And it's obviously going to be interesting to see how Peatling goes with all these other guys. How would you project this Adelaide midfield to go?
Yeah, I've got what did I have? We did that podcast the other day, but without the exact numbers, I think their main three will be, unless I'm completely missing someone, Dawson, Peatling, Rankin as the third in there. Who am I missing? Someone obvious?
Saligo?
Well, it's Crouch, Saligo.
Yeah, I think Saligo will be a 50-50 split. I think Crouch, he could be a start sub, get subbed out, low time on ground anyway. So obviously he's in the middle when he is, but say if he plays 60% time on ground, he'll be 60. But I'm pretty confident you'll see a Dawson, not as high as his glory days, but I think you get 70 plus from him. Peatling, 60 plus. Rankin, 55, 60 plus. Saligo, probably 45 on the wing and inside. So, which means that I've actually got both Dawson and Rankin probably above market for what their output's going to be, but that's a pure guess. I have no intel on what's happening at Adelaide. And back to Guesties, when you've got all these number of names you can pick, it's like, well, Rosé's going to start inside mid, and now he's going to pick up a bit of extra slack. So it's quite easy to jump to another one. So I can see why people are scared off of the Dawson, and then same in the forward line with Rankin when he's yet to do it before, and then there's so many cheap guys out there. So, yeah, I'm above market on those two, but I can understand why people are apprehensive.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thursday night's going to be a good watch, that Brisbane-Adelaide game, to hopefully get a little bit more insight with hopefully Rankin playing in that one there. Moving to the rucks, obviously the sort of big news a couple of days ago was Mark Pitney looking unlikely for round one with a calf strain, and who knows how long he's out for. So Tom de Koning's been the one that has gone into calculations, and we had Craig Pereira send through this question. He was saying, with Pitbull possibly now out, is TDK at R1 an option and a cheaper R2 like a Boyd or a Reedy at R3? Don't like Cherry to start the year other than against English, so considering fading him to start. So I guess he's looking at maybe a Briggs at R1 and then going Tom De Koning R2 and then one of those Reedies or a Boyd's on the bench. How do you feel about fading a Cherry, even like Marshall as well, and maybe even a Gawn? What would you be thinking about not going on those top price rucks?
Yeah, you can certainly fade them. No question you can fade them, particularly if you don't like them. If you like them, you can also go with them. We've shown over the years, I think it's like the last 5 years, the winning teams have had players priced over 110. So it's not like you can't do it and spend up on these players. Obviously, you want them to back it up, ideally. But on the flip side, like in 2018, I didn't start with a Tom Mitchell price at 120 odd, and he went 130s for the first, or even more, 140s for the first 4 weeks, and I was still in contention. So you can certainly fade these top guys. And if anything, there's more upside than downside to fading, because it's much harder for them to go a 140 from their 120 price tag to a 100, because you still got to play a good game to get that 100. So you can certainly fade. My super coach, I've currently got Cherry in there as R1. But yeah, whether you can have the rucks the rookies at R2, that's where I was going if Pitney didn't come in, I think, well, where I was leaning towards going. But now Pitney's there, he's come into my side. So but again, it's like all positions, there's options this year. Like Briggs, I think, is going to outperform, obviously, the early buy, but I'm bullish on him. English, very hard to get a read on, but we've seen him do it in the past. So any form of a bounce back, he'll prove to be a decent pick. They didn't pick up that mid-season, the mature age ruck. So again, there's going to be variety in the ruck department. So as I said, if he doesn't like Cherry, then don't start him. There's other names there for sure. But if you like him, then don't be afraid to pay up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Tim, who have you currently got in your rucks at the moment?
I'm Briggs and TDK. So, but look, I'm kind of I've been like English Briggs. I'm a bit concerned about Cherry. Like I feel like he's a bit overpriced. I mean, that first matchup against English does scare me a little bit. But yeah, look, I mean, TDK's like slotted into, I guess you might call it R2, and that R1 is still kind of up for grabs at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, no, rucks are going to be very interesting, and one of those, a bit like defence, probably going to shape how a lot of people start their seasons off. Moving to the forwards, we've got a question here from Pocket A Aces, and he's asking, would Selby start Jason Horn Francis this season if he was playing? So would you be starting a Horn Francis at F1, or even a Rankin or a Baker or someone like that? Or do you like a McRae at F1 and going for a few of the, obviously, like a Sanders and obviously Hugo Garcia, obviously, looked all right. Elijah Hewitt's obviously a rookie. We played in the B side, which I'm interested to see if he's best 22. A few other options. Where would you be sitting at with the forwards?
Yeah, again, it's interesting because it keeps changing each week, the options. At one point, we thought how thin it was, and we didn't know what to do, but now there's all those players like the Garcia price tag and the Hutchinson. There's a lot of names who have popped up, so that Horn, would I start with the Horn Francis? He'd be the last one I'd fill in that F6, but out of those premiums, he would be the one I would start. I think Butters' injury will just eliminate any risk of him splitting his time forward and mid. So that probably makes it better. I know it means that he's clearly the number one tag target now without Butters, but the way he plays, I think he can break through that tag. So would I start a Horn Francis if I was playing? I would probably say yes as it stands, depending on what happens in the opening round with some of the other players. But yeah, there's plenty of options. Jack Graham, Liam Baker, obviously the obvious three, who everyone's starting with. McRae is a fine F1. Like I've got him now as the I've got him now scoring more than Baz. I'm very bullish on McRae this year. So it's not like you're going to be left behind with someone scoring 80s at your F1 if you have a McRae. I think he can do over 100. So it's like, do you think that Hornet is going to go well over 100? Well, even 100 plus, which you probably want him to do. His preseason form suggests so.
Yeah, he's been looking fantastic. Tim, I know you've been someone that's been pretty keen on the Horn bag. Have you got him currently F1 and feeling pretty confident with him?
I was hot on him pretty early, and then I kind of faded him a little bit just because we were having so many forward options come up with value, and I was a bit worried about exactly how much. Look, he's priced at 90. I think there's probably at least 5, maybe 10 points in him. I'm not sure how he's going to go over 100, but look, like I said, with Butters now out, I think that kind of takes away a little bit more of that risk. And, I think he's up there for that kind of competition for that F1 position at the end of the year. So, it is nice if you can lock someone in that's going to be scoring top 6 and they got a bit of value in him. So, look, he's back in my side now that Butters is out. But yeah, we'll see how things go over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. The one part I did want to ask you about, Tim, as well, while we're here, is Elijah Hewitt. So obviously I mentioned that he was in the B team for in match sim. Whether that was just to get him some midfield minutes and to go up against the other West Coast mids, where do you see him fitting as a West Coast man?
Yeah, so as we started to have our rookies start, knocked my bottle off. Rookies started dropping like flies over the past week or so. I actually started to toy with the idea of maybe moving Hewitt into the midfield and having that kind of mid-forward rotating player. But then, he played in the B side, which gave me a little bit of concern. But look, he's been used pretty heavily in those midfield rotations. I still think that's probably the way the Eagles are going to go. Like being in the B side was a bit of a surprise to me. But look, I've still got him sitting on my bench at the moment. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see what happens in the preseason games.
Something I saw on Twitter, someone were talking about coin toss loss or something. Did you see that pop up? No.
Why they flipped a coin to see whether he's going to be the A.
Kind of hard for it.
Yeah, don't know. Look, once again, Jep follows the Eagles pretty well, so they'll be recording tonight as well. So I'm curious to see what he's got to say tomorrow about Elijah Hewitt.
Yeah, exactly. In a world, Selby, if Elijah Hewitt's not there and he's either sub or he's not playing, would you be then looking at maybe going a deeper forward and maybe even having a Hugo Garcia at F6, or would you be happy to maybe plug if there's another rookie, whether it be a Sam Davidson or a Connor Stone or a Max Hall or one of these other options? Would you be able to play one of them, or would you be going maybe leaning more towards a Garcia or even a Hutchinson or someone like that at F6 instead?
Yeah, this is where I'm still got to try to work out the system, because my super coach, which I've been playing the last couple of years and playing pretty well, 3 years ago, top 10 and then top 200. And then last year I ended up coming in late. I came top 2,000, but I think after like 6 weeks, I was coming 40,000th. And that's because of this strategy of pushing these rookies off the field, like I like to do in the forward line, where I had no rookies. I had all mid prices. But when you've got best 18 last year it was 4 of the first 5, this year's 3 of the first 4. It doesn't matter if you've got that rookie on your field scoring a shit score, because they don't count in your best 18 for those. So I was getting punished for having not the top end guys and having too many mid prices. So it makes me think, get that rookie. Gono Holmes is very big on getting extra rookies in the forward line, because the F6 might average, say, 85 to 90. So if you can get a rookie there scoring a 60, you're not giving up many points to the top guys. But having said that, like Hugo Garcia is my F6 in my super coach. Like I've pushed all those rookies off. Connor Stone on the bench, and like Kako looked good, but I wouldn't want to rely on him on field. But then, yeah, that was a shit, not knowing what's happening with Elijah Hewitt. If he's named and midfield, then you're going to want to probably have him either on field or so. We've got options, and that's something I'm still going to work out the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think there's a few guys. And I know DT Lemon has also spoken about it as well. And if you lock in all those forwards, and either if DPPs come or there's mid prices, like if you didn't start a Jack Silvani, just the first one that come top of my head, or someone, or even a Ben Hobbs who looked pretty good in the match sim tonight. What if one of those guys pops? How are you going to be able to fit them in? Like, so you might have to go one of those other premiums down or anything like that. So maybe you start that rookie and then you can pivot to that. So it's really interesting, I think, ahead of the season. I think the forward line's another one, which I think makes for a very interesting year, because you can go a number of different ways across a number of different positions. Just a couple of quick questions before we finish up tonight, just from that people have sent in. So Oliver Calvy's got the first one here. So he says, what kind of average should we seek from players priced in the 400 to 500K range for them to be considered good picks over players priced 350K or below? So those sort of rookies, keeping in mind that they're probably more fieldable too. So obviously Driscoll was one that we used as well before, and a few of those other forwards. What would you be? Is it position dependent? What you're looking from these guys? What would you be wanting from those guys at the 400 plus bracket?
Yeah, it's a good question, obviously, because there's two ways with it. If you have got the extra cash to spend, sometimes it's better paying a bit of extra money knowing you've got I know Driscoll's the 5th year in the comp, bigger body, a Hutchinson mature age compared to a rookie. But if, at the end of the day, they're just as much sub risk, they need to score an extra probably 10 points more than the other to generate the same amount of cash. So the cheaper one's going to generate more cash, and having the cheap one might allow you to have that better premium on field. So you're probably going to want someone like an O'Driscoll who's priced 400, but he's priced at 43. You're probably going to want him to average 70s, I think, which he can do. I think last year he scored 79 in one game and 22 in the other. In the Waffle finals, he had 29 touches in that grand final with a big score there too. So you're probably going to need mid-70s, whereas, the base and price rookies, we're happy with a 50 or a 60. So the benchmark's higher, but, that's kind of the trade-off. So at the start of the year when we had these good rookies, or what I thought were a good bunch of rookies, I wasn't prepared to go there. But as Guesty said, they're getting thinner now that you might have to pay up that little bit of extra to get that, hopefully 70.
Yeah. Tony Denham's got the next question. He says, why should I be looking to go someone like Perryman over Rivers given the early buy? So obviously this is probably a question that will be a lot better answered next week when we get we can see Rivers with Viney and Petrarca in the side and said that whole Melbourne midfield. And then we also get a look at Perryman in the opening round. Who would you be looking to start over the other? If you got a preference there, obviously we've got to see Rivers with those other guys back in the midfield.
Yeah, and this is where I don't like the early round, the round 0, because it'll be given to us all on a platter. It'll be much better if we had to take the call, or whether you wanted to start both of them or make that call, because the answer is going to be in the round 0 score of Perryman. And even if he, like we saw with Grundy, if he doesn't back it up after that, he's still going to generate enough cash if he goes big in round 0 and you haven't had to pay up that extra for it. So if neither had the early buy, and they were both, you had to make a call on one, it's probably at the moment still Perryman just.
Yeah. Tim, have you got, I think you got both of them currently in your defense at the moment. Oh, you're on mute, Tim.
Sorry about that. I was sneezing before. So look, I've got both. I've got both on my side right now. I'm trying not to overthink Perryman too much. Change of clubs, change of role. I think there's value there. Like I said, I think we're also pretty short of options in the defensive line because of what we were talking about before. Trent Rivers, obviously there's a little bit to play out in terms of how we see that Melbourne midfield shaping up, just because of Viney and Petrarca being out of that game the other day. But, I think if he's that third or fourth mid, then there's definitely upside in him as well. And for me, why wouldn't you have both of them? The one I'm a little unsure of, but I think with Mills going out, is Matt Roberts. I think a lot of us were pretty quick to put him in our sides, but once again, I'm not sure that there's as much upside as I initially thought. But look, once again, I'm kind of of the mode. It's better off having a player there that's maybe got 10 or 15 points of upside rather than getting like a Harry Sheasel or a Colby McKercher that's not going to go up in price at all, or a Harry Sheasel that might even drop 10 points or something along those lines. So but as we get closer and closer to the start of the season, I am a bit worried because there's a lot of mid prices in my side, a lot more than I would really like, but maybe it's the year for it.
Yeah. So what's your thoughts on a Matt Roberts? Obviously, he had that good patch at the end of last year to finish off. A few people said maybe with McInerney not being in the team, that could have correlated a bit with that, and obviously another pre-season, a bit more responsibility maybe in that defence, but there's still a Blakey back there. Florent obviously takes some kick-ins as well. I'm sure Lloyd will go obviously push back from a wing. What are your thoughts on a Matt Roberts? Obviously, we will see his opening score. What are your thoughts at the moment with a Matt Roberts?
Yeah, I haven't been as hot as others on him, but I know good judges like Jay Stone, he's keen on him. So I'll trust them. But my initial view at the start of the season was Mills was going to play down back, and I thought, well, that's going to eat into a bit of Roberts. Now, as soon as Mills moved midfield, I thought, okay, well, maybe my Roberts is half a chance. But yeah, I'm much rather these other names we're speaking of than a Roberts. And then to top it off, he has got that early buy. So unless he goes out of the box, which he's shown he can do, if he goes a 110 plus, then same story. But yeah, I'd rather the other names at the moment than a Roberts.
Yeah. And final question, it's sort of two people have asked the question. It sort of ties into one another. So Taser's got one of them. So obviously a good friend of ours. And then since you've been gone as well. So Taser said, I hear and see a lot of coaches talking about how few rookies they have on field. Is there potential that it's a mistake and they'll miss out on cash gen or be too mid-priced? And then since you've been gone, also asked about should the best mid-prices now dictate our starting structure, given the rookies are dropping like flies, or their scoring looks like it might be a lower base above than the select few. So where do you sort of sit with, as I said, those got paying up for those guys that have got the more security and maybe less of a sub risk, but then obviously you're maybe being a little bit more mid-priced heavy and with just less rookies, or going a few more rookies, as Taser's saying. So where are you sitting at with that at the moment?
Yeah, I've always liked the mid-price. I don't guess he's nervous about his team, but I'm excited that he's got these mid-prices in his team, and I reckon he's going to have a good year. I know Chris Burnham, who won it last year, he had more mid-price in his team than any other winner the 6 years leading in. Obviously, the risk with a mid-price is if they don't perform, like the players who make the most cash, unless you get an exceptional example like a Cherry last year, who was a mid-pricer and he generated more cash than any rookie, and he was a second highest scoring player in the comp. So he kind of ticked both boxes, but they're unique. They're unicorns. If you get a mid-price who doesn't go well, like Ollie Wines of last year, they're not scoring the points of the premiums. You're losing out on points, and they're not getting the cash gen of a rookie. So that's the trade-off. Obviously, what we want them to do is generate the cash of a rookie, like we've seen they can do if they do well, and score close enough to those premiums. So the risk of starting too many of those is how many each year are going to pop off and have that good effect. If the rookies are good, you wouldn't want to miss out on a good rookie. We saw that last year. The good teams jumped on a Sharp, a Dempsey. Obviously, everyone had a Roberts after the round one, but they were the two who I know that a lot of teams didn't get, a Sharp and a Dempsey, and those who got those ended up getting that reward towards the back end of the year. So you don't want to miss out on these good rookies, but there's no reason why you can't start mid-price like Guesty, and then if one doesn't go well, then come down to the best rookie after round one and sort of fix your side that way. So we got plenty of trades. Unlike the Bolter game this year where it's going to cost you to trade, in fantasy, you can go in there taking a few risks early.
Yeah. Yeah, well, Tim, is that sort of what obviously you said yours is a little bit more mid-price, your team. Is that sort of where you're thinking as well?
Yeah, look, I think it's a little bit of a different year than past years where, previously we kind of had these maybe like top 6 or top 8 mids that were maybe a little underpriced. And, the name of the game is trying to get them in because, it kind of solidifies your squad as you head into the past the buys. But, the one thing that I noticed really killed me last year was rookies that were subs. There were some rookies there that just sat there not making money. It can burn you towards the end of the year when you're running out of cash. So, yeah, look, you've got to be careful when you're picking your mid-prices compared to your rookies. Like Selby said, right? A basement rook, currently, Connor Stone, what is he priced at 22? All he's got to do is go at a 50 and that's 30 points of upside, So that's a good result for someone like him. Whereas, Finn O'Sullivan, is priced more like 30, 33. So it's probably got to go at least 60, which you think those rookies should be able to score. And you might struggle to get that kind of upside out of a mid-pricer. So look, it's a balancing act. And I don't think our team's going to be dictated by the mid-prices, but we've certainly got to have as many of them in there as we can. We just got to wait for these rookies. We got to wait to the end of the preseason games, the end of opening round, to see how these rookies are shaping up. Because if we've got rookies that we think are going to play and are going to get 60s, then they're a better pick than a mid-pricer.
Yeah. To tie a bow on the question is that, so Selby, obviously a lot of people obviously say rookies dictate your structure. I know that Supercoach, obviously the pricing's a little bit different, but sort of how many rookies have you currently got on your field at the moment? And then also with fantasy, obviously pricing slightly different, but how many do you reckon is a good number? Because obviously there's a bit of variance. People are going as low as like a 2 on field, but then some people got like a 6 or 7, obviously with a bit more of that guns and rookies approach. So yes, in terms of Supercoach, how many rookies you got? And then, fantasy, what would you go with?
Well, the only content I consume is fantasy content. So, like, I'll pretty well build my Supercoach team like a fantasy team. So, as it stands, I've got 1 rookie in defence on field, obviously 2 on the bench. Midfield, I've got 3 rookies, but like Sardis is a rookie price essentially in Supercoach. That the pricing system's slightly different. So, whether you pay up for that in fantasy, again, round 0 will dictate that. But so I've got the 1, then the 3, none in the ruck. Mind you, I'd have toyed with having a rookie ruck with a Reedy. And in the forward line, I've got none. As I said, I've got Garcia as my F6. So what does that mean then? 3, 4 rookies on field, which doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But then... it doesn't sound like a lot compared to some previous years, but we'll see how it all plays out.
Yeah. Tim, how many rookies have you currently got on your field at the moment?
Yeah, well, I did have a side not that long ago that actually only had 2 in the midfield, but I've kind of played with that a little bit. Look, I've got 3 at the moment, but I'm leaning towards maybe if I'm going to have 3, having 3 in the midfield. But like I said, it's just going to depend how these rookies play out. I've got none in the forward line, and I'm very hesitant about in the back line. Look, once again, I'm running a number of those round 3 buy players. So, Perryman, Sam DeConnick, Matt Roberts. I'm trying to make sure that my defensive rookies are playing. At the moment, I can only see 2 kind of that I think are going to play. I'm not sure about Jackson Pryor tonight, so mainly midfield, avoiding the forward line because of the value there, and we'll see how we go in defence.
Yeah. I've currently got the 4, so I've got obviously Jackson Pryor in defence. I've got the 1, then I've got Levi Ashcroft and Harvey Langford in the midfield, and I've still got Elijah Hewitt sitting there, but I've got on the bench Davidson, Stone, and then Max Hall in utility. So there's if Hewitt's not there is a chance that I could even go one of those guys. If Connor Stone looks good in opening round, might be able to chuck him on field, and then you get the 2 cracks at covering him in round 2 with him missing. So, very interesting. A lot to play out over the next couple of weeks with the rest of the Amy Community Series to finish up. And then we've also got, obviously, opening round, which will be a lot of fun. But that'll do us for the episode. So, Sel, thank you very much for jumping on us. I very much appreciate you taking some time out and jumping on with us as well. Do you want to give a plug firstly for Bolter as well? Obviously, a bit of a new different format with Bolter this year. And then obviously, where can everyone find you across the socials and get the season guide?
Yeah, at Mirrors Magic on socials. And there you'll see the links towards both Slider, the comp I mentioned before, the Slider Survivor, and then, Bolter, which we're running again for 2025 with a few little different twists, such as, charging points per trade and just trying to do a few little different things just to keep people guessing, but also try to make it the exact same pricing and salary cap as the official version, so you can literally put your same team in 1 minute and enter a team in a Bolter comp, which, based off last year, a couple of thousand people play for a bit more chance of a prize. So check that out. At Mirrors Magic, you can find me. But thanks for your time. But as I said, hardest working man in fantasy footy we're about to get to midnight, I think, because I've held you late with my kids not getting to sleep. So thanks for waiting late for me, and always good to see you, Guesty. Appreciate your time.
Oh, mate, always happy to wait up, and everyone knows I'm a night owl anyway, so I won't be going to bed for another few hours as well. Tim, where can the people find you across the socials? And also, obviously, want to plug that again, something special for the listeners if they haven't heard it already.
Maybe I can tempt Selby, mate. Want to be the 20th coach in the Content Creators Cup, mate? All you got to do, and the people know out there, obviously Infinite Wealth sponsors the Content Creators Cup. Last couple of years we've been putting out content about like a program about investing. I've built one more about managing your finances, taking control of your money. But the big kind of thing that's tied with that is if people register for that program prior to March 10, they'll go in the draw to be an opportunity to be the 20th coach in the Content Creators Cup this year and go up against 19 of their favourite content creators and show their wares and see what they've got. So, yeah, for people, just get along to that link, infinitewealth.com.au/AFL Fantasy to register. We've had quite a lot of registrations already. So, so get in while you can.
Yeah, exactly. Get around it. You won't beat me, but you might be able to beat the other 18 coaches, in the Content Creators Cup. And you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. You can find us at AFL Fantasy Fans on Twitter as well. And if you want even more content, head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Links in the description as well. Heap bonus content going through there. And there's even a cash league if you guys enter. And the more people we get in there, the bigger the prize pool. So make sure you guys check that out if you want some extra bonus content or just want to help support us here at the AFL Fantasy Fanatics. Final head-to-head episode comes out tomorrow, so make sure you guys tune into that one with Liam from Free Kick, chatting about a couple of ruckmen there. And we'll be back on Sunday night at the usual time, a little bit later because of the game on the Sunday. And we'll be reviewing all the AAMI Community Series games and looking through ahead to opening round. So thanks, everyone, for tuning in. And we'll catch you guys in the next episode. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. See ya.
See ya.